Hello and welcome to another episode of Pick 3 DST, where I give you 3 defenses I like and 1 defense I'm fading for Week 11 of the NFL season. Before we get into our picks for Week 11, we're going to go do our accountability check for what was a pretty strong Week 10. I correctly predicted 8 of the top 10 defenses in my weekly DST rankings, and we did pretty well in our picks for this video as well. Our stud defense, the Ravens, got us 14 points, and our sleeper defense, the Raiders, also finished inside of the top 10, scoring 8 points, so we like both of those. Also, the defense we faded, the Bengals, had just 5 points, so we felt pretty good about moving them down our rankings. However, our solid defense, the Seahawks, also got just 5 points, which is a little bit of a bummer and kind of our one really missed pick of the week. Before we get to my picks for Week 11, please pause this video, comment below, let me know which defense you're starting this week, or ask me any start-sit questions, and I'll answer those as the week goes on. We'll start, as always, with my sleeper defense of the week, which is the Kansas City Chiefs. Consensus has them all the way down at 20th, but I have them 9th this week. I get not wanting to play a defense that's going up against the Eagles offense, but I think this consensus ranking, it really is disrespectful to this Kansas City Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense right now is 2nd in pressure rate, they're 2nd in knockdowns, which is sacks plus QB hits, and they're 2nd in opponent scoring rate. They're also 7th in explosive play rate allowed. So they're a really good defense that's coming off a bye and has the opportunity to prepare for an Eagles offense that's pretty solid, but really has some flaws. This Eagles offense is 24th in the NFL in turnover rate, and they give up the 11th fewest fantasy points to opposing defenses. So while they're not a good matchup, they're outside of the top 10 in terms of toughest matchups in the league, and we already covered that this is a Chiefs defense that's been pretty good and is averaging 10.7 fantasy points per game over the last month. So considering the Chiefs had an extra week to prepare, I think that this could actually be a much lower scoring game than people are expecting, and I think the Chiefs could sneak into the top 10 as a fantasy defense this week. My solid defense of the week is the Miami Dolphins. Consensus has them at 9th, and I have them up at 6th on the week. The Dolphins are a defense that is really confusing to me this year. They've snuck into the back half of my BOD season-long rankings a couple times this year and then fallen out. And that inconsistency makes them difficult for me to pin down. Now, the last time I ranked a defense this high as my solid defense, but was a defense that was tough for me to pin down, was last week with the Seahawks. And that didn't go well, but we're going to trust the process here and go back to a Dolphins defense that ranks 3rd in pressure rate, 4th in explosive play rate allowed, and 5th in knockdowns. Now, the Dolphins are just 23rd in pressure rate, but they're going up against Aiden O'Connell this week, and while he has won his last 2 games, those are against the Jets and the Giants, offenses that really weren't able to move the ball, so there wasn't a lot of pressure on the Raiders' offense to score quickly or make big plays. I do think this Dolphins offense is going to put up points against the Raiders' defense, which is going to put more pressure on O'Connell to drop back and make big plays with his arm, and we already just covered the Dolphins' pressure rate and their ability to get into the backfield, so I think they're going to put pressure on this rookie quarterback and make his life a little bit harder than the Jets and Giants were able to. So I really like the Dolphins to finish in the top 10 here. If you have a minute, you can pause this video and click the link below and check out my full weekly DST rankings, which I'll update as the week goes on for injury reports and weather and all of that. My stud defense of the week is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Consensus has them at 14th, and I have them up at 3rd this week. Now, I could have picked a safer option for my stud defense, something like the Steelers or the Browns, but I wanted to highlight the Jaguars because I think they're being overlooked this week. Yes, they came off the bye and looked terrible against the 49ers. There's no way to sugarcoat that. But the 49ers are not the Titans. Last week, the Titans played a Bucs defense that got absolutely obliterated by the Houston Texans, and the Titans were only able to gain 209 yards of total offense. Over the last month, for the Titans have allowed the 11th most fantasy points to opposing defenses, and that includes 3 Will Levis starts. So it's been a pretty giving offense, even with Will Levis under center. On the season, the Jaguars are 5th in opponent scoring rate, they're 5th in turnover rate, and they're 10th in explosive plays allowed. So they do get in the back, and while the pass rush hasn't really been all that good, this is a Jaguars defense that doesn't allow big plays, and it makes turnovers. And I think that's going to be important against a pretty mediocre offense and a young, inexperienced quarterback. So I think the Jaguars are a pretty solid play this week, despite their low ranking in consensus rankings. Now we'll end with the defense I'm fading for this week, and it's the Baltimore Ravens. Consensus has them 6th, and I have them down at 16th. Yes, 1 week after saying the Ravens were my stud defense, I'm now saying that we shouldn't really be playing them outside of deeper formats. And I think there are a couple reasons for that. First of all, the Ravens did just let up 373 yards and 33 points to the Browns offense, and now face a Bengals team that gives up the 7th fewest fantasy points to opposing defenses over the last month. We know this Bengals offense is really humming lately with Joe Burrow back to full strength, and Jamar Chase was able to play through that back injury and had a really solid game last week. So we have to expect him to suit up on Thursday night. Now, it's very likely that T. Higgins won't play on Thursday. He wasn't able to get on the field Sunday, and now it's a short week, so we do want to keep an eye on that for practice reports, but I don't expect T. Higgins to be out there. But I still think that this Bengals offense has looked really good with guys like Tyler Boyd and Trenton Irwin stepping up, and still Joe Mixon being effective with a lot of work on the ground. I think the Ravens are a really strong defense, so overall you can play them in deeper formats, but I just don't see them as a top 10 play this week going up against a really strong Bengals offense. So I'd be looking elsewhere in shallower formats. That's going to do it for week 11. If you haven't yet, please click below to like and subscribe to get all of our fantasy football content and regular football content during the year. Make sure to hit me up in the comments. Let me know which defense you're playing this week, or ask me any start-sit questions. Click below to get my link to the link for my full weekly DST rankings, and I'll check you back next week on another episode of Pick 3 DST. Good luck on Sunday.